Hey everyone. Lillian is stuck in traffic. She should be here in the next couple of minutes, I believe. And so we'll get started as soon as she gets here.
Good afternoon.
Maddie, how are you?
I'm good. Hey, Maddie hasn't gotten off the bus just yet, so it's gonna be me for like about 10 minutes.
Okay, thanks.
Or maybe, yeah, this is April.
Okay.
Yeah, they had a pep rally because it's homecoming weekend. So like she's gonna be a little bit delayed.
Okay, got you.
Yeah, that's why we couldn't come because they got a homecoming game, football game tonight. So yeah, so she's running behind.
Okay.
So you're getting me for about 15 minutes. I'll just listen. I promise I'm not gonna say a word.
I can go.
Huh? Okay. Let me-
Ebony,
Jill, I'm here.
do we have just a list of topics that are on our front list of topics that we're considering?
You're asking if we have a front list of topics that you're considering?
And then I mean to sound professional and came out wrong. Like, do we have just a list of the topics we're talking? Oh my God, I'm so tired. Y'all, my brain is full.
So are you talking about the schedule, Jill, for YLF?
Like a list of just the topics that we have considered for
topics for YLF.
correct.
Okay, so Amy's looking back at like some.
I think Amy's looking back to see if we have that brainstorm list of topics. However, the schedule that was sent out ahead of the meeting incorporates a lot of the topics that we had previously brainstormed. And so I think if we have time today, we'll be able to go through that schedule and see if that satisfies the committee's wants for YLF.
Sounds good. Thank you.
We don't have a quorum just yet.
Okay.
So I'm gonna reach out to one of the other committee members that said that she would be able to make it and see if she's still able to come, and then we'll get started as soon as possible.
Oh, what like does that turn?
Look beautiful, Jill, as always.
Thank you. You look beautiful.
Thank you.
Mhm.
Hi, everyone. We now have a quorum, which I'm really excited to announce. We have a pretty hefty meeting today. We're working on getting our video set up, but we have a pretty dense meeting today, arguably the most important meeting that we've had as a committee thus far, because we get the honor of recommending a fiscal agent to oversee the YLF that we have been planning for so long. But before we do that, we have some housekeeping to do. So we have some guests here today, so I'd like if we just could quickly go around and introduce ourselves briefly. Bambi, would you like to go first?
I'm gonna mute myself. Hi, I'm Bambi Palazola. Hey, Kiara, I see you. In there.
Vivian?
Hi, I'm Vivian.
Thank you, Vivian. Jill? Jill, can you hear me?
Yeah, I couldn't unmute. Jill, I'm Jill Hino,
Nice to meet
and
you.
I'll be right back.
Okay, thank you, Jill. Pam?
Hi, everybody. I'm Pam Allen. I'm really excited to be here today. Thank you.
I think Maddie hasn't quite joined us yet, but her mom, April, is here with us. Miss Bayham, would you like to go next?
Sure. I'm Melissa Bayham. I'm the Director of Louisiana Rehabilitation Services.
And then would you guys mind introducing yourselves?
Tell her your name.
Hi, Amy. Kiara
What's your last name?
March.
And she attends UL in Lafayette in the Life program.
Okay, awesome.
And I'm her mom. I'm Yolanda Marks. And I was a 2022 graduate of Partners in Policymaking. So I'm excited to be here and to learn a few things on how I can move forward.
We're so excited to have you guys here. I'm Lillian. I'm the chair of this committee. And we've been working on getting a YLF started, I think, for over a year now. So some more housekeeping. We actually had Nicole Dejean, Nicole Flores, and Harlan Kauser resign themselves from the committee because, as you guys may have noticed, Families Helping Families of Acadiana submitted a solicitation of proposals for YLF. So they wanted to avoid any conflict of interest. So they just removed themselves from the committee. So I wanted everyone to be aware of that. So we don't have any issues moving forward as far as concerns with conflict of interest. We do need to approve the August meeting summary. So can I have a motion to approve the meeting summary?
This is Bambi. I'll make the motion.
Okay, I need a second.
I'll second it.
Okay, thank you. Any abstentions or objections? Seeing none, the motion carries. And now we can move on to the denser part of the meeting where we review the proposals for YLF. Firstly, I think I'd like to open up Families Helping Families of Greater Baton Rouge's application. We received two SOPs, one from Families Helping Families of Acadiana and one from Families Helping Families of Greater Baton Rouge. Amy, if you could share the application from Greater Baton Rouge, that would be great on the screen.
Sure. Give me just a minute.
Okay. So my first question is, did anyone have the time to review these applications? Bambi, I see you have your hand up. Anyone else?
I have them.
Okay.
I reviewed 1.5.
Wait, come again, Jill?
I reviewed 1.5.
Okay, that's better than nothing. I appreciate it, Jill.
Of course.
So I would like to first discuss Greater Baton Rouge's proposal. I think, does anyone have any thoughts that did review the proposal before I say anything? Bambi, I see you have your hand raised.
Yeah, I mean, well, first off, I just, wanted to say these are the applicants, or I guess the submitters of these proposals, are both Families Help and Family Centers and are great partners with the DD Council. And so I appreciate that partnership. I did have some confusion with Greater Baton
Yes.
Rouge application because I'm sorry, my dog is coughing in the background. It was it didn't seem to be in line with kind of what our meetings have been discussing. Like I don't have any problems with the proposal, but like the alignment with what was maybe the request. So I went back to the solicitation for proposal just to make sure that like there was nothing that I got confused about. And so it seems like what they have proposed is not in line with what the council said it wanted to fund, which is the Youth Leadership Forum, which I think is like pretty specific, as my understanding, pretty specific guidelines to be part of the national model, like to be able to use that type of structure, kind of the same way our partners in policymaking is part of a national structure. So that was my concern. And so when I was doing the scoring, it made it a little bit difficult that like maybe it did meet the question that was being asked, but it wasn't meeting the council's overall, what I think the council's overall like mandate was for this funding, if that makes sense.
It absolutely does make sense. Melissa, I see you have your hand raised.
Yeah, I couldn't really tell if they were proposing to do the Youth Leadership Forum and almost like an additional component, or I was confused.
I had to sit with this one for a little while just to kind of call through it. And I think my understanding of the proposal is that Families Helping Families of Greater Baton Rouge would be utilizing youth with disabilities to plan a behavioral health conference. That was my understanding of it. I could be mistaken. Jill, I see you have your hand raised.
I just concur with Bambi and Melissa. I literally called Ebony at like 12 o'clock and they going, what did I just read? Like, because I don't think that I was thinking I missed something that we have been talking about, but I was also very confused.
Thank you for your candor and input, Jill. What I like about this proposal is that there is, they do reference a lot of research. I think, behavioral health conference is a great idea. However, as Bambi mentioned, any youth leadership forum in any state has to abide by national standards because this is a program that is monitored by a YLF, which is the national organization that oversees YLFs. And there are criteria for every YLF that uses the name Youth Leadership Forum. And my concern is that this does not meet that criteria. And my concern is that YLF will catch wind of this and their feathers will be ruffled because while behavioral health conference is a phenomenal idea, it's not YLF, right? because youth leadership forums, according to AYLF, really focus on emphasizing education on disability history, disability culture, cultivating that pride within yourself as a disabled person. And what I see from this proposal is, instead of emphasis on, you know, that history and cultural part, there's more of an emphasis on mindfulness, exercise, and nutrition to promote recovery from disability, which is something that I don't think is in alignment with the values of a youth leadership forum. The other comment that I do have is that it doesn't really adhere to some of the committee's recommendations. For instance, there's no coordinator mentioned. Region 2 is selected as a location when we decided it would be Region 4. And one last thing is that it focuses on people with DD, and the AYLF requires that we meet the ADA definition of disability. And so while I think this is a great project idea, my concern is that it cannot be called a YLF according to national standards. So Pam, I see you have your hand raised.
You couldn't have said it better of what your comments and everyone's comments. I just had a question. With their submission of this proposal, had there been some talk about this type of a program, or did they just kind of decide to go off on this thinking it might be comparable? It seems so different from what the proposal was asking it. I was just wondering where maybe that came from.
I wish I had more context. I think a lot of people are a little bit confused about this proposal, because while it is, you know, definitely a good project idea, it doesn't seem like it's YLF, right? It doesn't seem fitting for this SOP. So yes, I wish I had an answer for you. Unfortunately, I do not. Does anyone else have any input, questions, concerns? Vivian, Cheney, you've been quiet. I'd love to hear your thoughts.
Can you guys hear us? Vivian, can you hear us? Cheney, can you hear us?
Vivian says,
Hello?
oh, sorry, Cheney.
Sorry. Sorry, I was trying to get the mic to work. Pretty much, I agree with what everybody else is saying.
I don't mean to call you guys out. I want to hear from everyone on the committee, because it's such a huge decision that I want to hear everyone, because everyone's perspectives are so valuable. Would you mind pulling up Vivian's chat so we can read it?
I'm trying to make sure. Okay, that's it.
That's so tricky.
Yes. Okay.
Vivian says, yes, I agree. It does not seem to align with what we want to accomplish. Thank you, Vivian. So would you mind pulling out Families Helping Families of Acadiana's proposal? If anyone has any more thoughts about Greater Baton Rouge, I'd love to hear it, even if it's from the public or from committee members. Thank you, Amy. Can we scroll down to project summary? Thank you. So before I say anything, did anyone have the chance to review FHFOA and do you have any thoughts? Jill, did you get a chance to look at FHFOA or was that the half one?
No, FHFOA was the first one I was able to read. So I read the whole thing and I thought it was great and I do really like it because FHFOA has been to some of our YLF meetings and they kind of have more of an idea of what specific the committee and the DD council are looking for. So I think like this direction.
Thank you, Jill.
You're welcome.
Bambi, I know you had the chance to read through some of them. What did you think about FHFOA?
Yeah, I thought it was a great proposal. I like that it pulled in all the components, it's following the national YLF components. It is, really looking at diversity and also looking at I read it twice just to see if you had all the partners, if they had all the partners listed in here that they plan to partner with. And so I really liked that, dealing with UL Lafayette, and they mentioned LRS and the Department of Education. Yeah, so I liked all of it. It was good. And I also like that they had the partnerships, some of their letters of recommendation, they had from another Families Helping Family Center, as well as from the Department of Education, and letters of support. So yeah, I liked it.
Melissa, do you have any thoughts?
The only thing I was curious about is, do you think that there's enough effort in terms of the coordinator as far as how many hours, the 830 hours? Do you think that's going to be sufficient for a year for this particular position?
I think it's a difficult question.
It's just the salary looked low to me. Just knowing what.
Well, I don't know for sure, but all that they can budget is the 30,000 the council gives. So my assumption, but I could be wrong. My assumption was that their plan would have been to use some of the other funds given to also put towards that salary.
Gotcha. So this may not be the totals for the salary, just based on the 30,000.
When I saw the number, that's what I thought, but I could be wrong.
Okay.
That was just, when I saw the number, I thought.
I was just doing some Melissa math, but because 830 hours, now October's already started, obviously, you divide that by 12 and you divide that, that's 69 hours a month, which is not bad. That was just my question.
For some context for everyone, Ms. Bingham was asking about the salary for the coordinator in this proposal. Because whenever you look at it, the hours and the salary looks a little bit low, even for a part-time worker. And so the idea really is that in this proposal, it states clear anticipated funding from LRS and LDOE, and we have a letter of support already from LDOE. So the idea is that this may not be the total for the salary, and that the coordinator may be paid more based on any other funds that come through or any other grants they may get. Which I appreciate you bringing that up, because we want to ensure that the coordinator is well equipped but on a program like this. Jill, is your hand raised from earlier or is it new?
I did not see on this proposal the LRS and then print the whole thing. And they did see the something. Wait. And they did see the disclosure of ownership or the tax form. Unless I'm missing something.
What was the second form you said, Jill?
I think she said the tax. form.
Oh, yeah, I left the tax form out because it's got some private
Okay.
information. But I do think the board resolution was in there.
Yeah.
Probably overlooked it. Oh my God.
Does anyone, oh,
I'm sorry.
go for it.
Okay, so if, once we pick somebody, just say, for example, we pick this particular proposal, will we be able to do means of financing swaps? In other words, if LRS, for example, can pay some of these costs, would they be able to move some money around? Does that make sense? Because like take lodging for delegates. If I'm able to pay, if LRS is able to pay for the lodging, but if it's in this budget, then we couldn't because it would be duplication of funding.
Mhm.
Does that make sense?
Mhm.
So I just want to throw that out there.
Is the question.
Yes, I don't think that would be an issue.
Okay. Because I think like supplies, I think you're gonna need more for supplies anyway. I think that's probably a low number for supplies.
So this budget and the SOP for the DD council isn't necessarily set in stone as it is today.
Right, we usually base a contract off of the budget
Mhm.
that they give, so the budget detail would be what they give. But if in the actual use of funds, they need to make some changes, so they need more in supplies, which means they pay less in salaries because they're doing it, or they're not paying lodging. We can move within there. We just cannot exceed the 30,000. So some changes based off of the reality of whatever the project is expected.
So implementation is flexible, but the total is not.
Right, yes.
And I mean, it's very understandable because I don't know all the details yet to know how to tell the council what LRS will be able to contribute at this point. And they do mention in their proposal, that they're anticipating LRS funds. It's just, we may have to move stuff around the budget.
Mhm.
And you had a question in the Q&A.
Will the salary increase based on the number of youth increasing? That's a great question, and I'm not really sure we know the answer to it yet, simply because for our first year, I think we're projecting about 12 leaders or delegates / campers. There's a lot of different names for our youth, right? We're expecting 12 as far as the committee goes. And then the idea is with each year that YLF continues, we increase the number of delegates or campers. So that's the idea that the committee has. But the idea of the salary increasing with the number of delegates, I think would likely be up to the fiscal agent once this project is handed over to the fiscal agent and well off into the future, probably in 2024. Great question. I wish I had an answer for you. I don't right now, but thank you for asking.
And I think Jill's hand is in.
Okay, hey Jill, I see you have your hand raised.
UL, there was money in the budget for financing, but I thought the time was donating that.
What?
Or am I like way off?
Who did you say was donating it?
I thought the UL pie was, I thought,
Oh, the life program at UL. She thought that
thank
they were donating
you.
the
I
lodging,
thought,
the UL life program. Is that something that they said that they would be interested in doing?
maybe not.
So my understanding, I don't remember who was all at the meeting. My memory is terrible. But my understanding of what UL Life would be donating is not the lodging, but rather the UL Life rooms. So instead of having to rent their rooms for the daytime sessions, we'd be able to utilize those for free, but we would still have to pay for that lodging.
Oh, okay.
Does anyone else have any thoughts, questions, concerns?
So Lillian, at the appropriate time, I don't know if what the process is, but I would move that we recommend Families Helping Families of Acadiana to be to fulfill this project for the DD Council.
Okay. I would like to, before we make a motion, point out a couple things about this proposal. The really neat thing about this proposal is it very explicitly adheres to the best practices put out by YLF, the national organization, such as, you know, like the delegate population being representative of the race, ethnicity, and socioeconomic status within our state, about the celebration of disability culture, disability defined as in the ADA, and it also reflects that work of our committee, such as mentioning utilizing UL, having grades 10 through 12 be delegates, and also it being a 3-day residential program. So I just wanted to say that and have that on record before we proceeded. So sorry for interrupting your motion, but I did want to have that out there. So Bambi made a motion to recommend FHL. Oh, and it's seconded by Cheney. Does anyone have any objections or abstentions to this motion? So I will answer the question after we finish with the motion. So does anyone have any objections or abstentions to our motion? Okay, hearing none, the motion passes. We have a question in the Q&A. It says, will this project be available throughout Louisiana or just available in certain parishes? The idea of YLF is that it serves the entirety of Louisiana. There will be, so with YLF, it is a 3-day like residential program. It's almost like a summer camp for people with disabilities or youth with disabilities to become empowered members of their community. So that summer camp or residential program, this committee has planned to happen within Region 4. But the idea is that youth with disabilities will travel from across the state. There may be travel reimbursement. I can't promise that, but that would definitely be the goal. So we can represent all areas of the state. So it's definitely not discriminatory based on the parish that you live in. Thank you for that question. So before we move on to our next agenda item, I do want to mention that this committee's decision is not necessarily final. Our recommendation then goes to the DD Council's executive committee, and then the executive committee makes a decision. and then that decision rolls over to the full council. So there's still a little bit of a process to go through. I plan on attending executive committee virtually and full council in person. But I would very, very, very deeply encourage all of you to come to both of those meetings, either virtually in person. We need as much representation from our committee as possible. It's definitely better if it's not just me talking about YLF, right? So we can be there and really explain our decision-making process and also the process that we've been involved in over the past year, right? So we can really do our work justice and be able to create YLF in the way that is true to YLF, right? So please come to those meetings. And all the meeting information can be found on the LADBC website. So the next agenda item would be finalizing the schedule for YLF. I believe Amy's going to pull that up. Awesome. So I know there was a bit of a brouhaha about this schedule whenever we first kind of looked at it last time, because it is a very hefty schedule. I do want to preface this with the fact that whenever I was at Oklahoma's YLF, I did inquire about why their schedule was so jam-packed. As a chronically ill person, it was very difficult not to fall asleep because I am naturally a very tired person. But there actually is a purpose behind this, right? Because YLF is often the first time the delegates are away from home for an extended period of time. And they're also in a totally new environment with totally new people. It's a very overwhelming experience, on top of the fact that you have back-to-back sessions packed with learning, right? But the idea of having a jam-packed schedule is so you don't have as much of that homesickness, and so you don't have as much of that emotional fallout that comes from being away from home for the first time, especially with people with disabilities who may be less able to adjust to new circumstances like YLF. And so really the idea is keeping everyone as happy and healthy as possible, while also maximizing the experience. With that being said, this is absolutely just a mock schedule, and I'd love to hear your thoughts on this.
There's a question in the Q&A.
There's a question that says, has a rubric been created for deciding which youth will be a part of the first cohort? So that rubric will likely be created by the fiscal agent and the coordinator that is hired, if the coordinator is hired, depending on which organization these funds go to. Because I know Greater Baton Rouge did not list a coordinator in their SOP. But the idea is that that rubric will be created by the coordinator, but there's already templates put out by the national organization, and also templates from other states as well that we can pull from and tailor to our state as well. So that's definitely a future thing. But excellent question. Thank you.
This is Bambi. I'm just wondering, for public meetings, rules, should we not know who's making questions? I can't tell this person. Maybe you guys know. Not that it's okay to ask questions. I just don't know. For public meetings, is it supposed to be the person identifying themselves?
We can identify them, Bambi. I guess that's something we were leaving out. We can see the names. There is somebody that's on their cell phone, so I'm not sure if they're able to change their name because they're on the cell phone. I'm not sure if they're driving or not. So I know that question that Lillian just answered was from the person that was on their cell phone. I think the other person that asked the question, it was from, and please forgive me if I don't say your name correctly. I think it's Yesha McFarland. She asked the previous question, but there is someone on the cell phone. It just says Samsung, so I'm not sure of the name.
So whoever's on the cell phone, if you're not driving, if you could pop your name in the chat, if you're comfortable with that, that would be great, so we know who you are.
She raised her hand.
Hello, you
Good
know.
afternoon. This is Karonda Corley. I am driving. I was on
Okay.
the types while I was at a red light, but I am driving. This is Karonda Corley. And the answer band question, as it relates to open meeting law, Robert Rules of Order, all of the individuals that are participating, not just the ones that are actually typing in questions or submitting a question, is supposed to be reflected as being in attendance. So like if we were in person, everybody is supposed to sign in, but also all of those that are attending virtually are supposed to be reflected as being in attendance as well, whether or not, regardless of them asking any type of question. So I just wanted to make sure that everybody knows that, because I know that I actually had a meeting today regarding that, because that did not happen at a meeting that I attended recently. And it wasn't the DD Council meeting, but it was just a different meeting. But it is supposed to be that every person that is attending, whether they're in person or just on the actual call themselves, actually be recorded as being in attendance.
Thank you, Ms. Corley. All right, do we have any comments, questions, thoughts about the agenda?
Lillian.
Yes.
And we don't have to go through this right now, but is there a way like that I could get a little bit more explanation as to what the different things are, just so I can at some point figure out which I can tie to a pre-employment transition service? Like, for example, emotional support, how to exactly what the content of that particular session will be.
Yeah. So I think this is actually, I'm really glad that you brought up that block of time under the staff training. I would really like to explain this. The emotional support how-to is specifically for the staff. So before YLF actually happens, we're going to have a robust staff training. Last time there was some question if we should have 2 days of staff training or if we should just have one. The schedule just reflects one. We can definitely hash that out today if you guys would like. But the emotional support how-to, I felt like was really important to add, because one thing that I really underestimated going into YLF was the emotional component of YLF. Not just because of the reasons that I mentioned earlier of being away from home, around new people with new information, but especially whenever you have youth with disabilities who have maybe behavioral health needs or more specific emotional needs, our staff really needs to understand how to support them in the best way possible to make their YLF experience as meaningful as possible. Because there are a lot of things that are brought up in YLF. So for instance, there was a discussion among the delegates at YLF about what it's like to feel discriminated against as a person with a disability. And that's really hard topics to talk about. And so I think our staff needs to be really well equipped about how to be sensitive to these issues and how to support the delegates in the healthiest way possible. So Jill, I see you have your hand raised. You're on mute, Jill.
Can someone send it to me? Because for some reason when I'm printing it only had the training day.
Okay, I can email that to you right now.
Cool.
Does anyone else have any thoughts,
I have
questions?
a question.
Yeah.
Now, I know that you say the conference is gonna be for 3 days. Is it gonna be like once a year? Is it gonna be a couple times during the summer? How many, do y'all have a plan in mind on how often it's gonna be? Is it gonna be like a once a year thing, a quarterly thing, or something like that?
So currently the idea is that it's going to occur once a year with alumni events in between. So once someone has gone through YLF, there may be events quarterly where all the people who went through YLF get together again and maybe do an activity. Maybe it's going to the Capitol. It just kind of depends on how the fiscal agent executes it. But yeah, once a year is the idea. Jill, as a YLF alumni, what do you think of this schedule?
Go up
How far up?
all the way. Yeah, like, well, I mean, not as unnecessary when in alumni, but when because like y'all can probably assume I'm not gonna remember much details from this, but this seems really to line up with the national YLF modules and what they kind of like suggest the topics to be. So I think it looks great.
Thank you, Jill. I go ahead.
So are we as a committee gonna develop the like curriculum?
So I think it just depends on what you mean by curriculum. We can definitely approve this schedule today and hope that our fiscal agent abides and adheres by the schedule, right? But the nitty-gritty details of hiring speakers and organizing these sessions will likely be up to the fiscal agent and the coordinator. My hope would be that after this committee is finished with its work, then the fiscal agent will have some sort of advisory group. So there's still community input about YLF. So Cheney, I see you have your hand raised.
So if we approve this agenda, what if the people that are planning it need to change the time of the presentations or anything? Like, what does that, how much of this is set in stone?
I don't think it, I mean, I think it's tricky, just because of the way our committee set up and the fact that we're handing over this project to our fiscal agent. So my understanding of this would be our recommended schedule. So we've been working on this for over a year. We've done our research. We understand what YLF is. So we hand this over to the fiscal agent and we say, here's what we think YLF would function best as. DEI training, diversity, equity, and inclusion training.
That's from Ms. Corley.
Okay, so Ms. Corley asked in the Q&A, staff go through diversity, equity, and inclusion training. That is up to the fiscal agent. And I think it's also as tricky because of what you mean by staff, right? Because if you mean staff as in everyone who will be working at YLF, there will likely have to be some diversity training just because disability brings in a whole lot of diversity, because we know disability doesn't discriminate against race, socioeconomic status, gender, really anything. So there's going to have to be some diversity training in order for this to happen successfully.
She'll have her.
And Jill, I see that you have your hand raised.
Again. So like, is the fiscal agent in charge of like staffing the forum. Like, I kind of want to discuss, I think we did, but unofficially, I want to discuss what the duties of the fiscal agent are gonna be.
It's a great question.
Or did we talk about that?
We can absolutely talk about that. And I think it's definitely a worthwhile subject of discussion. So this is my understanding of the situation. Amy, please feel to jump in if I'm incorrect about anything. So whenever this committee was first formed, I'm sure everyone on this call and everyone in this meeting understands that this is considered an ad hoc committee. So it's not a standing committee on the DD Council, which indicates that our committee is temporary. So we were charged with, laying that foundation for YLF, planning it, getting everything lined up so we can bring this back to Louisiana. And so my understanding of this is that this will likely be our last meeting, if not our last meeting, unless something comes up and we need to get together again for any reason. But essentially my understanding is we do that pre-work so then we can hand over this project to a fiscal agent. And this is exactly why I have said this is our most important meeting, because choosing our fiscal agent is imperative to maintaining the integrity of our YLF. We need to make sure that our fiscal agent understands YLF and is going to execute it in the way that this committee foresaw it, right? Because we've been planning this, we've been looking at national standards, we know YLF, and we need to make sure that we're handing this program over to someone who will bring this to life in a way that will empower our young people with disabilities and in a way that really honors the work, the amazing work this committee has already done. So I hope that explains things a little bit better. And I see Brenda Kosei has her hand raised. You should be allowed to talk now. Hello, Ms. Kosei, you should be allowed to speak now.
If you're speaking, we can't hear you. I see that you unmuted your mic, but we can't hear you for some reason.
She did put something in the Q&A.
Oh.
And so maybe that would.
Okay. Dorm prep entails, can there be attendees paired with staff counselor living in Dorian? So Ms. Kosei is asking a couple of questions in her Q&A. She asked what dorm prep would entail. I put this into the schedule because at OKYLF, there were things that needed to be done, like putting the sheets on the beds and, putting the pillowcases on the pillows, little things here and there, and also like packing their backpacks for the week. So one of the things that was really important to OKYLF was each delegate had a backpack that they could carry around on campus. If they had any comfort items, fidget toys, or even like their water bottle for the day, they could put it in their backpack that had a name tag on it. They also brought these backpacks to Capitol Day. So dorm prep would entail dorm prep and also packing those backpacks, getting everything ready for the arrival of the delegates. Can there be consideration for a pre-arrival conversation brochure with attendees paired with staff and counselor? There, on day one, from 10:30 to 11:30 tentatively, the idea is there will be introductions and what to expect at camp. But the other cool thing that I would love to see Louisiana recreate from Oklahoma is that they do interviews with their delegates before camp. And so not only do the staff get to know the delegates, but the delegates get to know the staff. So everyone's familiar with each other and have seen each other's faces before they even hit that campus. Living indoor. Okay, so those were the two questions. Thank you for the question.
Mark says her hand raised.
Hey,
Hi, I have a question. Now, once it's handed off to the fiscal agent, is there gonna be any oversight of them? And also, if once, say, Family Helping Families of Acadiana is chosen, say if down the line, they start going in a direction that may not meet with our goals, how long is the contract for? And would they have to like reapply every year, or how's that gonna work?
so that's largely dependent on the council and our funders. The oversight would likely come from our funders, which would be right now set in stone, the DD Council, hopefully LRS and LDOE, Louisiana Rehabilitation Services and Department of Ed. And so my understanding of the DD Council is that there will be reports on how YLF is going at full council meetings, but also was the funding for YLF put in the yearly plan or the 5-year plan?
Yearly plan.
Okay, so currently they'd have to decide again next year if YLF is still gonna get the 30,000, less, more, or none. The hope is that if YLF is successful, DD Council will see that it's successful and worthwhile investment, but that would be the oversight. My personal hope would be that there would be a community advisory group for input. We'll see how that plays out. But again, that's why it's so important to choose the right fiscal agent, so we know that they will do YLF justice. Okay. Thank you, Ms. Kosei. Does anyone have any more thoughts, questions, or concerns about the schedule, or does anyone want to make a motion to accept it? Are we just gonna? Okay, thank you. So Jill makes a motion to accept the schedule.
A second.
And Vivian seconds it. Thank you, Vivian. Do we have any objections or abstentions? Awesome. Well, it looks like we have actually gone through our entire agenda, which is record timing for any DD council meeting ever. So congratulations, team. So this now is our public comment section. Do we have anything in the chat? Q&A, hands raised?
Let's see if we have something in the chat. No, nothing in the chat.
Okay.
Oh, wait, I see someone's hands raised.
All
That's
right.
Ms. Corley.
Hi, Ms. Corley, you should be allowed to talk now.
I got one.
Hey, hi. I have another quick question. Is in regards to the individuals with disabilities that may have disabilities such as autism, that may need to get acquainted with the actual premises or location prior to the actual 3 days. Will the fiscal agent be taking that into consideration and allowing them the opportunity to be able to tour and on the premises frequently so that they can actually sit surrounding for the 3 days? And what is the grand total budget? Because if we're saying 30,000 is not going to take a nerve to actually be on the premises with the youth. So I just kind of wanted to know what would be the whole total budget for the YLF 3-day event, so that I can actually kind of come up with a calculation and I know if that is going to be feasible as it relates to making sure that we have things covered such as diet because everybody with a disability don't necessarily eat the same thing. They may have dietary restrictions. So I want to make sure that our budget is something that's going to accommodate everything for our individuals with disabilities that are youth that will be actually in attendance. Thank you.
Thank you for your question, Ms. Corley. So my understanding is that there are two questions in your comment. One, for individuals with disabilities, like maybe someone who has autism, will they have the opportunity to get acquainted with the campus before the forum? And I would assume yes, because the idea that the committee has is that our forum will be hosted on UL's campus. And the cool thing is that that's a public college campus. So anyone can tour the campus at any time. So they will have that opportunity that really just depends on their schedule. Additionally, with the budget, that's an excellent question. We don't necessarily have a set in stone budget right now. What we do know that is set in stone is that we have 30K from the DD Council. However, we are anticipating funding from LRS and LDOE. That funding is to be determined. However, the really, really cool thing about choosing a fiscal agent is that we don't have to worry about that budget. We don't have to worry about if it will be enough to put on the forum, because we are handing our project over to the fiscal agent. And if we choose our fiscal agent well, we'll be able to trust that fiscal agent and understand that they'll be able to execute this project with the budget that they have. And if they don't have enough money, they'll be able to get grants or other funding sources. So I think we're going to be okay. Knowing YLF's, understanding the budgetary piece, I really think we're going to be okay, but I definitely appreciate your concern and your deep interest in whether or not this will be feasible. So Jill, I see that you have your hand raised.
Sorry, I was emailing Amy DeVille. Thank you. That was just what I was looking for. So we can come. I know you said we're basically turning everything off to FHF of Arcadia, but what about does this committee look at the funding budgets from the other funding sources if we get them?
I think that would really be up to the fiscal agent, whoever that ends up being, because they'll be in charge of that budgetary piece, since they'll be the hub that is receiving DDC and all the other organizations, is my understanding of it.
Okay, all right. Thanks.
Hi, Jazz.
Hi, Jazz.
Hi, Jazz.
Hey.
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 It's good to see you. Okay, so it doesn't seem like we have any more public comment. Does any of the members of the committee have any comments, questions, concerns, anything else we need to discuss? Seeing none. I know oh, what?
So that's kind of now that we are in fiscal year 23, will this be monitored by the self-determination committee?
Yes, Jill, it's going to the self-determination committee. It's just like partners. So yeah, you guys will get an update just like you do with partners.
Just asking.
No problem.
Jill.
Already thinking ahead, huh?
You know me.
After the last meeting, but before this meeting, whenever I was in discussion with Amy about some things about the committee, I think we both kind of realized that with this meeting, our committee's work is essentially complete because we were charged with bringing YLF back to Louisiana and passing it off to someone who is going to be able to execute it. So I just want to take a moment and have everyone pat themselves on the back because we did it. And so YLF is going to be coming back to Louisiana in 2023, which is probably the most exciting news ever, right? And so unless something crazy comes up, we shouldn't be meeting again as the YLF Ad Hoc Committee under the LADDC. Maybe we'll meet again in a different capacity, hopefully at a restaurant as friends casually, because these meetings can be a lot sometimes. But thank you all for your participation and congratulations, because we have accomplished our goal and finished in record timing. So can I get a motion to adjourn our last meeting?
Do we need a motion to dissolve the
Yeah,
committee?
you have to have a motion to dissolve.
Okay, well, that's something. Good job, Jill. Can I have a motion to dissolve our committee?
I will.
Okay. Can we have a second?
It's hard,
I'll second.
I'll second it and just say how impressed I am that Jill, I did not even realize that. So that is very impressive skill, Jill.
I think that because I actually don't think this is correct because I think we went through this in the partners attack, and I think there was a debate because I think since the self-determination committee formed it, then only the self-determination committee could dissolve it. So I'm not really sure it's us who dissolves it, but I don't know.
Do we have to settle this today or can we?
No, I mean, I think if you guys just make a motion in case you guys are the entity that needs to dissolve, we can make a motion. And then if we determine that the self-determination committee is the one that needs to make the motion, they can do that at the council meeting on next week.
Where Sean be able to do that since he's chair, since he creates the committees?
Yeah.
Okay. Well then, I mean, can we just kind of agree that we're good to go and adjourn the meeting?
Yeah.
Rashad just,
The chair.
Right. All right, so I guess we're still tied together as a committee, but can I have a motion to adjourn? Come on, guys, I just need a motion to adjourn. I'm not asking for much.
I make a motion.
Thank you. Okay, so
Second.
we're just gonna say Shani makes a motion and Amy makes seconds. Does anyone have any objections or abstentions? Seeing none, we are adjourned, and thank you guys very much. Appreciate it.
Bye.
Bye, baby.
Thank you.